Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting Dragon Ball discussion. Here we're going to ask the question, why can't everyone shapeshift in Dragon Ball? If you're new to the channel, make sure to check us out. This is the nickabenson channel. If you like our content, feel free to smash that subscribe button. Really appreciate it, as well as like and comment on this video. We do a variety of content, not only college lifestyle vlogs, but also videos about Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Ball, Young Justice, you name it. So let's jump right into this video. So Puar and Oolong are two characters of the Dragon Ball franchise who have demonstrated the ability to transform. Both of them went to the Southern Transformation Kindergarten, where they learned this technique. Oolong, unlike Puar, however, did not graduate fully from the Southern Transformation Kindergarten. So Oolong does not master the shapeshifting ability, where Puar, shown here, has mastered the ability to shapeshift. In order to talk more about shapeshifting in detail, let's check out the Special Attack Dictionary from the Daisenshu, which is the official guide of Dragon Ball. It is shared here on the Kazenshu website. So shapeshifting, a shapeshifting art which they can perform through having studied at the Southern Transformation Kindergarten. Puar can transform into anything, but Oolong can only imitate the shapes of objects since he dropped out of school. And what's more, he has a time limit of 5 minutes on his transformations. Now, here's what I would like to highlight. Puar can transform into anything. Transform into anything. Now, that may not sound like top tier shit, but I don't know why it doesn't. Keep in mind, Oolong imitates the shapes of objects. So he changes his shape to look like it. You know what I mean? But Puar isn't just changing his shape, even though it's called shape-shifting. He is transforming. He is transforming into anything. That has no limit. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between can transform into anything they can imagine, right? Because you can argue some people aren't super imaginative. Puar has the potential to essentially turn into anything. Now, you may argue, like, hey, you know, Puar and Oolong, they are like special case characters. We don't see individuals transform very often. So why should we assume that characters like Goku and Piccolo also should be able to transform into things? I think it mainly has to do with the Southern Transformation Kindergarten. So the Southern Transformation Kindergarten, also called the Shapeshifting Academy, and this is Dragon Ball Wikia. Always take Dragon Ball Wikia with a grain of salt. Is a school which teaches the art of shapeshifting to children. It is said to be the most prestigious of kindergartens that teach the transformation arts, or the transforming arts. Notice that it says right here, it is said to be the most prestigious of kindergartens that teach the transforming arts. Kindergartens. Kindergartens. There are multiple kindergartens that teach transforming to children. That's ridiculous. Okay, so essentially the idea that I'm presenting here is it's not like you have to go to this really specific school. Since they mention that multiple transformation kindergartens exist, you could imagine maybe there's one for like each cardinal direction, kind of like how there's a like north, east, and south Kai kind of thing, and west. Maybe there's a north, east, south, and west transformation kindergarten. The concept that multiple transformation kindergartens exist shows that like there are multiple individuals who know of such. Also, that's quoted from the Daisenshu number 4. So I'm glad they cited their source on that. The Daisenshu, of course, being the official guide to Dragon Ball. So with the official guide of Dragon Ball stating that there are multiple transformation kindergartens that teach shapeshifting to children, actual children, and that shapeshifting is a technique, why haven't the others learned it? Why haven't the others learned it, considering the potential of being able to transform into anything? I mean, let's think about transform into anything real quick. Consider a character like Goku, who's attempting to transform into like a higher stage of power. into like a more powerful force? What if through shape-shifting, you could attain like higher transformations? Keep in mind, there's like no limit being put down on what transforming really allows you to do. Oolong has limits because he didn't graduate. But if children are capable of graduating from the Southern Transformation Kindergarten, then what keeps a master like Goku? Like, master, I'm saying because Goku has made it so far, he's gained so much power from obtaining shape shifting. Now, Goku, I can forgive because if you really do have to go to the class, let's say that like learning it, the only way to truly learn it is by going to the shape shifting school. Then maybe adults aren't allowed to go to the school, or maybe it's really simple for you to learn it as a child, but as an adult, it's really difficult to like get it down to basics. So I'm like, okay, cool. I understand the idea that maybe transforming could be like more difficult in that way if you were older, but I feel like that doesn't excuse Gohan. Gohan started out in Dragon Ball Z. It's a flash forward from Dragon Ball where Goku has already settled down with Chi-Chi and had a child. But Kid Gohan was pushed into like studying a lot. Chi-Chi really focused on him getting an education. And this is years after Kid Goku had encountered Puar and Oolong as a child and learned about shapeshifting and learned about the Shapeshifting Academy. I'm not saying Goku should have remembered that the Southern Transformation Kindergarten existed, but he does remember that it is like a technique that exists. And maybe since Chi-Chi had a big focus on pushing Gohan through school and making sure that he was educated, that she could have put him into a transformation kindergarten. Imagine Gohan with the ability to transform into potentially anything. I feel like being able to transform into anything is a really powerful move. A lot of people would then argue, just because you transform into an object doesn't mean that your power level changes. So it doesn't mean that you get stronger. That's actually a pretty solid argument. The reason being is that when Vegito was turned into a piece of chocolate candy by Boo, Vegito still retained his power and was able to still mock Boo and wipe the floor with Boo. So arguing that Goku could use shapeshifting to achieve some higher form could be a really ridiculous argument for you to argue, because that's simply not how transforming to higher forms has worked in the past. Fair enough, but there are certain things that you can transform into where it has nothing to do with power. You know what I mean? Like the function of the thing itself is what makes it a powerful force. For example, if you transformed into a black hole, you know, like the form and function of whatever you transform into still is a thing. And I can support that with ideas of like, what if you turn into a fish and you like swim in water? You know what I mean? Or what if you transform into a bat so you can use bat wings and fly around, as Puar is shown in like this image doing? You know, there are multiple uses that you can have. Here, Puar turns into scissors, which they use to cut off Goku's tail. See, you can still transform into things and then utilize what is transformed. You know what I mean? Like as the object itself. So facing off against a villain and transforming into a black hole to trap the villain in, transforming into a weapon for one of the Z fighters can use that actually cuts through an opponent. Transforming, and this is ridiculous, but you could transform into like a whole other universe if you wanted to. And that's, again, really ridiculous, but quoting the Special Attack Dictionary, Puar, as a graduate from the Southern Transformation Kindergarten, which teaches children how to shapeshift, can transform into anything. So if Puar really wanted to, he could transform into an additional universe, which is ridiculous, but not out of the question. So with shapeshifting being such a powerful move, I feel like at the very least, Kid Gohan should have went to the Transformation Kindergarten and possibly learned it as a child. And with how Gohan is such a scholar now in Dragon Ball Super, I feel like older Gohan should also be able to utilize the transformation ability. You're telling me throughout all his research, all his studying as a scholar, that Gohan hasn't mastered the ability of transformation? It's a technique that's taught at more than one school. So wouldn't Scholar Gohan know how to shapeshift and transform potentially into anything? I mean, there are clear uses for how this works. And as you see, because you can transform into anything, it allows for a lot of interesting moves and attacks and abilities. For example, in this image here, you see Puar essentially as Puar normally is, but with bat wings. So Puar transformed just Puar's arms, just as Gohan could potentially transform his arm into like a sword, like just his arm. Anything includes like your normal self plus some kind of change. You know what I mean? And that change could mean all the difference. You don't have to change your whole body into a black hole. Maybe you change like your hand into one or something, and you can use it to like suck in opponents. Or you shapeshift your hand and develop like claws. You know, you're not just imitating the shape of something, as the Special Attack Dictionary states, because the Special Attack Dictionary says Oolong, who dropped out of school, can only imitate the shape of an object, but you actually transform into it if you graduate. So yeah, I don't see a reason for why shapeshifting isn't a more commonly used in Dragon Ball, more commonly used moved in Dragon Ball. I feel like it's been slept on by these characters, but more importantly, it's been slept on by the writers who write these characters. And I would love to see more characters master shapeshifting over time. If there are any other characters who I am rather upset haven't learned shapeshifting, I would say it would probably be Yamcha. The idea that your friend has utilized this shape-shifting technique for years, Puar, as like someone that you've hung out with your entire life, but you yourself have never like tried to adapt the ability of shape-shifting. It just seems rather poor sport. It seems like you could be doing better and know how to shapeshift. How can they rectify this in the future? How can we see a character in the future really utilize shape-shifting and master it? I feel like the answer is Pan. Pan is currently a baby, so Pan will have time to grow up. She's being raised by Gohan in order to become just like her own character, become her own person. We know that the end of Z is still canon, where Puar really wants to be a fighter, because it's already been announced that the end of Z is still canon. And we could potentially see, since Pan is still young, even at the end of Z, she's still like a small child, Pan go to the Southern Transformation Academy and learn shapeshifting. I feel like that would be a great opportunity for the show to bring shapeshifting back into focus and to give us a powerful character who has obtained the ability to shapeshift. Because as I keep emphasizing, the Special Attack Dictionary shows that if you go to a shapeshifting academy, you can potentially transform into anything once you've graduated, which is why I feel that shapeshifting should be a bigger part of Dragon Ball and would allow for our characters to do really crazy but amazing special moves and abilities. And also, as stated, the Southern Transformation Kindergarten, based on a quote from the Daizenshu 4, seems to not be the only transformation kindergarten that exists. It just happens to be the most prestigious of the kindergartens that teach the transforming arts. So yeah, if not Pan to learn shapeshifting in the future, considering that she's so young and she looks around the age to where she could go to a transformation kindergarten, then I really see Bulla as maybe being a possible candidate for learning shapeshifting. Keep in mind, a lot of the characters that we currently have are not like power characters who shapeshift. Puar and Oolong aren't like the big fighters of the series, but we could potentially get a big fighting character who can shapeshift in the future if they ever bring that back into Dragon Ball. But Bulla, I could imagine being a character who may not be a fighter from the start, but who, as a young child, goes to the Transformation Academy and achieves the ability to transform, who could just be like a side character, kind of like Oolong and Puar, who transforms, or could be a powerful fighter, and a Saiyan who has the ability to shapeshift. So what do you guys think about shapeshifting and the fact that there are multiple of these shapeshifting academies? I really feel like they've been sleeping on shapeshifting pretty hard, in that they could really utilize this. Being able to transform into anything is a huge feat, and in the hands of more powerful characters like Gohan, who's a scholar who should know about shapeshifting already, considering there are multiple schools that teach it to children, and other characters could really utilize this to help them out. Imagine the Tournament of Power if you could essentially transform your arm into a power pole. They've stated that there can be no weapons in the Tournament of Power unless it's a part of a technique. But what if your technique is you transform parts of your body into weapons? You know what I mean? You could have blades for fingers, like Freddy Krueger or something. Like, the possibilities are endless because, as the Special Attack Dictionary says, you can transform into anything. So I feel like they should really utilize that in the future, maybe by giving characters like Bulla and Pan, who are still young children, the ability to transform by having them go to one of the transformation kindergartens. I think it would be really cool. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't be expecting it, but they definitely appreciate seeing these powerful quarter Saiyans master such an ability. Going back to Gohan, Gohan recently stated in Dragon Ball Super that he wanted to obtain a form stronger than his father's, but do it in his own way. And I admire Gohan for saying that he wants to do it in his own way. But you may be wondering, what could Gohan do in order to, like, obtain power in a way that his father hadn't previously considered, in order to possibly become stronger than his father? And I would argue that one way that Gohan could do this would be by learning shapeshifting and mastering it. If children can graduate from a transformation kindergarten, then Gohan should be able to master this ability. And I feel like in the middle of a fight, while you're throwing punches and your opponent is constantly putting their guard up and blocking, if you could make your arm into like a blade or a sword mid-attack, you know, while your opponent is like lifting their arm up to block, you could potentially like sever limbs and like brutally mutilate opponents like mid-fight, and they'd have no idea what happened, because no one expects a Saiyan to then transform a part of their body into a weapon. You know what I mean? So I feel like the ability to transform into anything could have a great potential for the future of Dragon Ball. What do you guys think? Do you think they'll ever reintroduce shape-shifting into Dragon Ball? Post your comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Make sure that if you love this video, to like this video, favorite, comment, and subscribe to the nickabenson channel. We have tons of content coming out all the time. So thank you all once again. I truly appreciate your time, and have a wonderful day. This is your host, Jet Black, logging out.